You win some, you lose some. But you live to fight another day.
Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 209. It is the fourth day of the week, aka the workout. It's lower body, that's all I know for a fact. I still haven't decided a name yet, but that's what we're deciding on. If I coughed it in, I coughed it in. Look at that. But anyways, I'm feeling good. I'm on the way to the gym right now. My right hip hurts a little bit, but got to do a little bit of stretching in order to get it fully loosened, a little bit of a warm up. I'm only going to do 5 exercises today. That's right, 5 time exercises today because I want to go home and I have something to do so that way I can edit tomorrow. But anyways, to the main subject matter at hand, fight. In the fight or flight discussion. Yesterday I was talking about the flight discussion. You know, that feeling of just wanting to get the fuck out of Dodge. Well, today we'll be looking at the other side of the coin, the fight aspect of it, which is usually the first that you hear, and the one that most people, when saying it, want to hear, if that makes any sense. So anyways, the reason why I say it like that, well, one, because it's the first thing that's usually said when fight or flight, right? You don't hear flight or fight, you know? That one is a little bit different, but most of the time you hear it one way or another, the first way, and most of the time it is just because phonetically it sounds better, and understandably so. But I feel like when people say it, you most likely want the person to get into the fight mode, so they try hard to get to whatever they can, right? Which is understandable, and I understand it fully, because sometimes you kind of have to trigger something into somebody to actually want to try, you know? For me personally, I will say this, I'll talk about the greater general psychological implications during the voiceover, and right now I'll discuss something more personal, or just along the lines of me personally. Personally, I have had a few times where I've had the fight instinct in my life, basically. I haven't fought anybody, but more so along the lines of I've had to learn how to pick up and do shit and, you know, learn on the job and learn on my own while doing things, or else I was, you know, gonna be screwed. And one of the things I learned like that was at my job currently. I was like, when I first got there, it was a lot of stuff to learn. But as time progressed, I definitely got more and more situated to the point where now I'm very comfortable with my job. I really do enjoy my job, and I'm not necessarily too pressured when things are brand new. It's more of a like, oh, okay, I can handle this. I just need to get a grasp out of a couple of them and boom, I got it, you know, things like that. It made me like realize that I have more confidence, one, in myself, and two, in my abilities that extrude out in other aspects. And, you know, I'll probably relate it back to the gym whilst we talk in the voiceover, but it's one of those things where you have to know that you have better fight capabilities than you probably realize. And that's what happened to me personally, is that I vastly underestimated my ability to do things before just this general journey, whether it's even the recordedness or the year before recording stuff. I've generally underestimated my entire drive of doing things. So because of that, it kept me stuck in certain spots in my life, so I never really went anywhere because I was not really trying. And this could go back even more so to when I was finishing up school and finished that up with a strong ending, you know, because I was really bad before that, and then I really locked in and made it so I could finish school strong, and it just kept compounding from there. But before that, though, there were times in my life where I wasn't really doing much, and it was because I didn't think I had the fight in me. So that was something that just happened to happen. But now I know that I do have that fight, and I can do more than I think. Now, do I try to bite off more than I could chew? Sometimes, but it's very rare now because I know now a little bit better, one, myself, two, my abilities, and three, my mental capacity to do things. So then that way I know when to fight or take flight, one of the two. But more so likely than not, nowadays, I will take the fight on because I want to try my hardest to get through whatever's happening and buckle down, really, because I know I can weather the storm. But we will talk more about the mentality of the fight instinct and maybe go over some other things that involve with it. Like, for example, people that only choose the fight instinct and how that's not the greatest of things to do. But we will discuss that when we get on the inside.
Nice to start this day off with squats, which were meh because my hip was hurting. But anyways, to the main subject matter, the fight response. And I think getting into it mentally, I think as time has progressed, I feel like most of the time when I was younger and or just not as confident in myself, I would pick the flight option. But as I've grown older and a little bit more wiser, I think the fight option is something that a lot of people don't end up doing. But then there are some people who default to it a little too much, but we'll get to that later. But still, it is something that I feel like once you kind of know your responses to things and your resilience to certain situations, it can go better or not. It all just depends. And I think that's the main thing. I think with running away or taking flight of something, there is no real losing in the situation, but in the fight you can lose, you can win some, but you can also lose some. The intro video is very accurate, and a lot of people don't want to lose anything. They don't want to put that risk out there, and I think that that is a mistake because you can't bat 1,000. You can't just do it. You have to be willing to sacrifice a couple of wins because there will be losses, but you can't let those get to your head. But that isn't just it though, because there are some people who will do it a little too much to defaulting into the fighting area, and I think that that can really mess you up because sometimes you shouldn't fight. Sometimes leaving is the better of the two options, and I think that a lot of people end up defaulting sometimes to the fight because they've been having to do it for a lot of their life, that even in smaller situations that doesn't necessarily even require it, hell, you can just do the do nothing thing, they default to fighting because it is something that they're just it's so ingrained into their being that it's tough to get out of. And I'm not necessarily going to fault these types of people because it's just sometimes that's how they have to grow up, really, and they have no real other option except for doing that. And then the flight isn't even really an option because if they fly, they're just done. But it all just truly depends. Personally, I use the fight aspect in the sense that you can really fight through a lot of your own inner turmoils and emotions and things like that. You shouldn't be running away from things like internally and stuff like that, just because I feel like most of the time people can have the tools in order to fight through a lot of the stuff. But I understand why people end up not wanting to do it. They might not have the resilience nor the willpower to. It's the other way around. But I think a lot of people should have a little bit more confidence in their abilities into being able to withstand more than they think they can. I think a lot of that has come to recent light, where recently it's more of a run first option type of deal. Running is the smarter option in some cases, 100%, but sometimes you should stand your ground and really fight it out, whether it be a physical fight or just mentally what it is, because sometimes mentally is where a lot of the fight aspect comes from. A lot of people don't want to deal with the stress of being in a fight. You can see them shaking and things like that, but it is tough. And I'm just going to touch upon this for a second, but once you get good at fighting or fighting through whatever you're fighting through, you may feel somewhat of an imposter syndrome, but we'll talk about imposter syndrome on a completely different episode.
Round 2, fight.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. Well, actually, we do have one. I did some leg extensions on the single leg extension machine because I was like, fuck, all of the 3 other leg extension machines were being used. All right, let me use this one. And then exercises skipped a bunch of them because everything was being used. Note to self, Thursdays kind of suck for legs, but it is what it is. I think I'm going to try to do forearms because instead I did Jefferson curls today, so I'll do forearms tomorrow. But anyways, back to the main subject matter. The fight in the fight or flight response ideal. Basically, I feel like more than not, people end up defaulting to the flight because I think it is the easier of the two options, not necessarily the dumber of the two options, nor the cowardly of the two options, but it is an easier option to just drop everything and go. There are times where that will catch up to you, obviously, but the fight is definitely something that can happen, have a mixed results to good results to bad results, but it all depends really on the person's aptitude to handle a situation. If you just tell yourself you'll just simply handle the situation, you'll probably get through it most likely than not, but some people will not be able to handle that, and thus the flight will incur, and thus they must leave. And like I said, sometimes the flight does make sense, and there are other people who will only choose the fight, and I feel like if you only choose the fight, you're gonna have a lot of issues in your life, because yes, there are times where you should fight, obviously, but there are times where you should get the fuck out of Dodge, you know. And being so stubborn and stubborn-headed and being so stubborn and allowing that to control you, or just choosing one of two options is gonna be a bad time if you keep doing it, especially in certain situations where it's not necessarily even called for, but your base instinct takes over, and thus you have to fight your way out. A good example of this is when dealing with police officers. Although flight isn't necessarily better, but it's more of a just get by and try to figure it out. Try not to fight them, nor try to get the fuck out of there. Sometimes you gotta go do a mix of both, you know, just to kind of like, all right, I gotta go, see ya, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really just be fighting them, and flying from them is also a bad idea, but you know what I mean. It's the same thing either way. Fighting them would definitely not be a good idea, but some people do not learn this, so there is that. Personally, I think that more people should take up the fight aspect of it, because more people probably have better competencies than they probably believe, and have the ability to do more. They have the self-confidence to, and it really does snowball into better and better things as you pick up the fights more and more, and understand that you're gonna just get better at it if you continue going down it. Now, don't do it everywhere, obviously, but if you do it in a controlled manner where you go out a little bit of your comfort zone and try to get as far as you can doing stuff like that, it could really help you out in other facets of life. So for example, another thing is like, all right, if I know I can do this at the gym, I know I can do this at work. If I know I can do this at work, I know I can do this in my personal life. If I know I can do this in my personal life, I know I can do it in my business life. So things like that compound a lot, and they always compound. So it is one of those things that you just have to slowly build yourself up to do it more and more and more and more. And so that way you can determine whether or not you're going to take your fight or flight response. For example, today during my squats, my hip hurt. So I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna just keep going, fight through it, or just say fuck it and not do it at all? I decided on the fuck it, not do it at all, because I fucked up my leg before. I've gone through what happens when you fight through these issues instead of just leaving it alone. And guess what? I got fucked up those last few times, so now I know, let's leave it alone. Let's pick the battle for the other day. But that's just a small example of small things that once you know your abilities, you can translate it to different parts of your world, really. So that's just an example of that. And with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one's a random one, but I wanted to finish this little mini series because I'm in the mood for series for some reason. But please, let me know in your comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there. Stay warm out there. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Peace.